The Sci-Horror Film Podcast.
Sounded like one of the gremlins.
They make me laugh. Hello. Hello, and welcome to the Sci-Horror Film Podcast. Don't know what I was going to say then, but whatever it was, I forgot what it was. So there you go.
At least it was English this time.
Yeah.
I am Andy Walker. Marginally better than I was in the last episode, and I have with me again, once again, my son Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello there.
Hello, and of course Amy. Hello, Amy.
Hello.
And we're here for our Christmas special. Happy Christmas, everybody!
Yeah.
Happy Christmas! Yeah. Yeah. For those of you in the UK, I have to say that this time of year, always for me, just brings to mind the reality TV star who sounds like somebody saying the season's greetings to somebody else with a speech impediment, Abby Titmus. And Abby Titmus. Yeah, Abby Titmus to you, mate. Anyway, enough of all that rubbish.
I love the fact that you just told a joke that's only going to be relevant to anyone in the UK that listens to this.
Hey, you know,
we both know the fact we've got people from over in the States that listen to this. They're
I
probably now going to
know.
go, "What on earth is he talking about?"
Maybe they'll Google it.
Google
day-
Happy Merry Christmas.
For a day, Abby
Come up with
Titmus
some
will
weird
be
stuff.
Abby Titmus will be top of the choice, top of the scrolling thingies in. I don't know what I'm talking about now. It's going. I've got it. I've lost it completely. Any road up. It is Christmas. It's a Christmas special, and this year for our Christmas special, we're doing something else. We have sci-fi and horror on display. I think ish.
In very loose terms of the word.
Yes. We're going to start off with something from 1978. It is not a film. This is a television special.
Yeah.
And it is the Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah. Star Wars Holiday Special from TV, 1978, American TV. And amazingly, they took off Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk to show this.
Or is the thing is that actually only says at the beginning, we're not showing the Incredible Hulk. But the Wonder Woman not even get mentioned anymore.
There you go. So it was directed by two people, actually. There was a guy called Steve Binder, who basically just does TV specials. He does all sorts of TV specials, music, acting. I nearly said voluntary then, but that's not the right word. I was looking for
voluntary TV specials.
Variety ones and all that sort of thing. But that's basically all he seems to do. And the other guy is a guy called David Akomba, who's actually uncredited as the director. But he does like some TV stuff and lots of specials as well. But he did do a film called Nightlife in 1989. He directed that. So there you go. Now, the writers for this, you have Rod Warren, who just writes TV specials. Bruce,
Sorry, I'm shocked that there was writers.
yeah, Bruce Vilanch, who does just TV specials. Then we have Mitzi Welsh, who just does TV specials. Pat Proft, who, although she does mainly TV specials, and that also wrote the screenplays for Scary Movies 3, 4, and 5, and a film called Mostly Ghostly, which I'm assuming was another comedy. Then we have Leonard Rips, who was the guy who wrote the screenplay and the original story for Frankenweenie.
Oh,
That I was not expecting that.
No. And of course, George Lucas, who wrote the main characters and all that kind of stuff. So
He
let's
wishes
get
he
on to
didn't
the
put his
main.
name to this.
Let's get on to the cast, the main characters. I'm not going to go through all the cast because couldn't be asked to go through it all. To be honest with you, obviously, mainly we have Star Wars people. So we have Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill did some TV shorts and video game stuff in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. There's a list of films. I'm not going to go through the full titles of these either.
Oh,
Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, which is 77, 1980, 1983. Slipstream, 1989. The Guyver, 1991. Black Magic Woman, 1991. Time Runner, 1993. Batman and Mask of the Phantasm in 1993. Village of the Damned, 1995. Laser Hawk, 1997. Watchers 4, 1998. Through the Mobius Strip in 2005, that was voice only. Robotech, The Shadow Chronicles in 2006. Battle for Terror, 2007, voice only. Dante's Inferno, 2010, voice only. Quantum Quest, 2010, voice only. Then we got Star Wars 7, 2015. Batman Killing Joke, 2016, voice only. Star Wars 8, 2017. Child's Play in 2019, he did the voice of Chucky in that, and Star Wars 9 in 2019.
there was a reason other than Star Wars that I like Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, apart from doing all the Star Wars stuff, he's the voice of the Joker in a lot of the Batman cartoons.
And games.
And games.
And some of the games as well.
The voice of Chucky in the new films. And he was also in the Flash TV series, the original one in the 90s and the new one.
Yeah.
Playing the same character.
Yeah, he seems to have a very wide range of stuff that he's played in.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I know that one of the other characters, like Harrison Ford, he's been in loads of stuff. But Mark Hamill's ones seem to be very obscure.
I think the thing is, it's a way to make yourself so that you're going to be booked for Comic Cons for the rest of your life.
That and the fact that you're not typecast, isn't it? You think that like certain ones get typecast into being they're just going to play that type of person. That if you then play everything, you can't really get done for that.
We've got a Harrison Ford. I've left out all the Indiana Jones ones because they're not really sci-fi or horror or anything like that. They're just
not really good either.
Action, fantasy type things. So for Harrison Ford, he did some TV in shorts and stuff in the 70s. We've got Star Wars 4, 5, then Blade Runner in 1982, then Star Wars 6, What Lies Beneath in 2000, Cowboys and Aliens 2011, Ender's Game 2013, Star Wars 7 2015, Blade Runner 2049 2017, and Star Wars 9 in 2019. Can't believe how old that man is either. But there you go.
Yeah, so, it's weird that he's that old and he's only just started looking.
Yeah. Carrie Fisher did some TV short stuff in the 70s, 80s, 2000s, and 2010s. We've got Star Wars 4, 5, and 6. The Time Guardian, 1987. Scream 3 in 2000. Sorority Row in 2009. Star Wars 7 in 2015. And Star Wars 8 in 2017. And she was also in Star Wars 9, but only for a brief sort of cameo.
As long as her image was used, not her.
Yeah. Then we got Anthony Daniels. Did some TVs and short stuff in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. Star Wars 4, 1977. Lord of the Rings, 1978, voice in the cartoon. Star Wars 5 and 6. I bought a vampire motorcycle in 1990. Brilliant. There was Star Wars 1, 2, and 3. Star Wars The Clone Wars in 2008. Star Wars 7 in 2015. Rogue One in 2016. Star Wars 8 in 2017. Solo in 2018. And Star Wars 9 in 2019. The interesting thing I thought was the fact that although he was in Solo, he wasn't playing C-3PO. He was playing a completely different character, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, he's one of the few that's actually credited to be in almost every Star Wars film, but he's the only one that doesn't play the same character.
And we have Peter Mayhew, who of course plays Chewbacca. Did some TVs and shorts in the 1980s. And we got Star Wars 4, then Terror in 1978, Star Wars 5 and 6, Star Wars 3, Yesterday Was a Lie in 2009, Star Wars 7 in 2015, and Killer Inc. in 2016.
That's a very good
And we have James Earl Jones. I found this fascinating. James Earl Jones did the voice of Darth Vader. For the first 3 films, for the first 2 films, he was uncredited. And for the last 2 films, he was uncredited.
Okay.
Very strange.
Okay.
So he was got Star Wars 4, The Exorcist 2, The Heretic in 1977, Star Wars 5, Blood Tide 1982, Star Wars 6, Field of Dreams 1989, Grim Prairie Tales 1990, Terrorgram 1990, The Meteor Man 1993, Star Wars 3 2005, Rogue One 2016, Star Wars 9 2019. Now, as all I've really gone into any detail with, there were also appearances on this by B. Arthur, who was one of the Golden Girls, Art Carney, who was in loads of films right back to the 1940s. Dinah Carroll, who's a singer. We'll get onto her a bit later. Harvey Pullman, who's a comedian who appeared in 3 or 4 of Mel Brooks' films, including Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
He seemed very out of place, a bit odd there. And of course, the band Jefferson Starship.
Yeah, because they fit in so well with Star Wars, don't they? Just because.
Well, they're called Star something, so I suppose it's, So the synopsis for this says Chewbacca and Han Solo try to get to the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk to celebrate Life Day, but are impeded by an Imperial blockade. Chewie's family passes time with various forms of entertainment. So, bearing in mind the quality isn't absolutely fantastic, although it is a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Also, bearing in mind it was a made-for-TV thing rather than having a big budget like a film. What did you think?
Go on, you go first.
Oh, I knew that was wrong. See, this is my big issue, and I had this the whole way through, and it was such a dilemma. Now, obviously, I know how you feel about Star Wars. You made that very clear. I am a massive fan of Star Wars. I have been since the first day I saw the first one, and I still am. Until I saw this. It genuinely upset me.
Right.
Now, I get the fact, obviously, like you said, yeah, it didn't have the massive budget. It went straight to TV. It was just a TV special. First off, it was a holiday special that was meant to be put out for the Christmas period that was released in November.
Yeah.
And the first, 20 minutes of it, 10 minutes of it, is just Chewie's family talking to each other with no idea what's going on.
3 people talking in Wookiee.
Yeah, 3 people talking in Wookiee, which is obviously them having an argument with no subtitles, no revelation of what's going on, apart from hand gestures.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I have a few bones to pick with it, but that's just because of the fact that it's the inaccuracy of certain things on it. But that's just because I'm a bit of a nerd and I know certain things about it. It just wound me up. It genuinely annoyed me, and I hate the fact that it did. I really wanted to give it a chance,
Well,
and then it started up, and yeah,
I've got to say, I was concerned because I hadn't seen this and I didn't know a lot about it. I was concerned that it was going to be somehow they were going to try and shoehorn Christmas or Thanksgiving or both into the Star Wars universe, and I could not for the life of me see how they were going to do that.
yeah,
I was glad to see they didn't try to do that, that it was just a celebration,
yeah. It was
a
was it
holiday,
Life
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 Day.
Day?
yeah. I'm glad they did they did that. But yeah, I mean, the first 10 minutes of it being three people that you've never come across before arguing with each other in Wookiee, it's
Yeah.
kind of
And
like, what?
the thing is that makes me laugh with that, yeah, is the fact that this was released, and I looked this up. This is meant to be set in between. Um, this is going to get so complicated. In between the original movie and Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So it's set on, just after the very first one. Now, it's not until in the Star Wars universe and all the pictures, all the films and all that, you don't actually find out who Chewie's family are until the recent movies. Okay, yeah, I know they're the prequel ones, but until the recent movies.
Yeah.
So anyone, yeah, anyone in the 70s that this was going on, this does just look like it's a make believe family.
But the thing about it as well is the fact that this was only originally ever shown in America.
Yeah,
So anybody who follows the Star Wars storylines or anything outside of America wouldn't have seen this at all.
Yeah.
no, yeah, it's just.
So it's just a bit like, oh, I don't get that.
Okay, they've got me. It was in ad creases, isn't it? Like the Star Wars universe thing. Luke always understood what R2D2 said. It's
Yeah,
the stupid thing
Yeah.
that they had. Certain people understood the robot beeps and all that.
yeah,
Luke was one of them. So I don't understand why they needed C3PO to translate it.
yeah.
And I don't know, it was just full of so many things that wound me up. Immediately, one of them didn't wind me up until Amy pointed it out to me, which is about Mark Hamill wearing a shit ton more makeup than he needed. So
Yeah, his hair looked really.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was making another film or something. Because
yeah, I
it
think
looked like it had been made blonde.
yeah, his hair looked. I know obviously his hair is up, but it looked fake. His
Yeah.
face was way too dark for what it should have been.
So maybe it
Yeah.
was just the lighting and the quality of it or whatever.
Yeah, but it's just
But
it annoyed me.
I mean, there were a few things that I guess I couldn't. The holographic circus thing
Hmm.
was just like, okay, this is mildly okay, and yes, it's great you've got all these holographic style effects, but it went on for about 20 minutes too long.
Yeah,
It was just like, and the other thing you've got to remember as well, I suppose, is this was probably made to be aimed more at a child-friendly audience. It was aimed.
Yeah.
yeah, it is a PG.
That's sort of what, like, don't get me wrong, this made me really angry for all the wrongs they done for Star Wars. But I looked at it from the point is if you're a kid in the 70s and you're a massive Star Wars fan, seeing this on TV would be so genuinely exciting
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
you're seeing your favorite characters and you're seeing different sides of like Chewbacca and his family. From
yeah.
that point of view, if it was like if you were there at the time it come out, you'd be so excited. I know I would have been as a kid. If I'd seen this, I would be so hyped up for it.
Oh yeah.
But
No,
like
I get what you mean. I really do. I get it
that's like
completely.
that's how I was trying to look at it. It made me so angry with everything they done wrong. It just all the inaccuracies.
The
So
one
I was
thing,
trying to give it a
the
chance.
one thing that kind of didn't fit in, and I didn't understand the point of having it on there really, apart from this is something to please the dads, maybe, was this
Talking about the
kind of
granddad's experience.
this kind of thing where the granddad puts his helmet on to watch
Yep.
what is effectively going to be Wookiee soft porn
Yep.
Yeah,
that ends up being a human woman singing
yeah.
dressed in silver, and it was all a bit kind of like, and this is supposed to be a kiddie sort of show, and it's a
Yeah.
bit. I don't know.
There was a couple of bits that are very, very questionable. But
Yeah,
I've got to say, like, I really liked the cantina scene because that music is one of the best bits of music, and to have someone able to sing to the cantina music,
yeah.
that was quite cool. There was bits that were like, actually, this is all right. To be fair, for its time, it was quite impressive.
It
Then
was.
there was moments that you just question everything, and you're like, why?
I didn't quite get the watching the cartoon of Boba Fett in the middle of it as well, because that was a bit like.
Yeah, it confused the life, especially as the fact that Boba Fett doesn't get introduced until after all of that, which I think is
Yeah,
quite weird. Is the fact that like when they actually meet him in the films, he's a bad guy working for Jabba the Hutt, not Darth Vader.
Yeah.
yeah,
But so it was, but it's just. I get the fact. Obviously, there's certain things that were added into the universe after that come out. I know the fact that they couldn't make it accurate when they made it, but it's just. It was just the bits that annoyed me. Like there was one bit that Amy pointed out to me, and I didn't actually notice until she did. But when the Imperial soldiers are walking through and searching the house, the
yeah.
big computer screen seemed to vanish very quickly.
Yes. So
And
true.
I did feel sorry for Lumpy, who's the little Wookiee, having his teddy bear ripped up.
That bit was sad. That was
Honestly,
unnecessary.
honestly couldn't get over the fact that the son's called Lumpy, the granddad's called Itchy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing is that makes me laugh is the fact like you got Chewbacca whose name's obviously shortened to Chewie, Marla whose name is shortened and I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I'm not that brave, and Lumpy's one is shortened from what it was, but even that it still says Lumpy Room,
Lumpy. I mean, it's just
and
like
it's just like
weird. But I mean, there were other things that got me. It's like sort of, okay, hang on. So, right, the Wookiees have to go through this kind of strange performance thing with these lights to
Yep.
open up this portal in space to get them through to this place where they can then celebrate Life Day. And they get through there, and the droids and all of the others are there before them.
yeah,
How did they get there?
yeah.
They didn't perform the magic thing. How did they get in there?
I just
You know, it was a bit like, eh. And as for the comedy bits with what's his name? I can't remember his name now.
oh, you mean
Harvey Korman.
the
The
bits
bit
with
he
the
did making
performance and making yeah. Oh my
the
god.
cake and a couple of other bits with him in that were just kind of like, what were they supposed to be? Because they weren't even very funny.
No.
And
Yeah.
it was just a bit. Uh,
So, like I said, like Amy said, I get the fact that obviously in the 70s, this is obviously aimed at, well, certain parts of it are obviously aimed at a younger audience, and
yeah,
so it might have been funny to them and all that. But yeah, obviously there's other bits that with I'm never going to be able to say it again, but the Wookiee soft porn.
Yeah.
yeah. Wookiee soft porn.
That
It's
was
just
That's just I'm never. It's
not needed
not.
ever.
Just to be honest, it's not a sentence that I had ever thought I would say or would come out of the
No.
mouth of my cat.
and then
But
an appearance by a band who were pretty much past it by then, Jefferson Starship, to be honest, playing a song that wasn't actually one of their big hits.
no, just because it fit in with the whole
And
fear,
it was
the
just
whole.
a bit like meh. And the other thing is the fact that, without being funny, it's an hour and 37 minutes long, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
the thing that got me was this TV special is almost the same length as the horror film we watched.
Oh, it's the thing I was looking at as well. It's the
It's
fact that
like, what?
when I looked at it, when this aired on the TV,
Yeah,
obviously over in the States they've got it timed differently. There's a lot of adverts in it, so this actually ran properly with the adverts for 2 hours.
yeah. I mean, I couldn't be bothered to sit and watch this for 2 hours.
I
No.
almost didn't. I couldn't be bothered to watch it for half hour.
I must, to be honest with you, I must admit, I watched it in 2 bits because I got fed up.
Yeah, I did find myself sort of realizing that I was paying a bit more attention to my phone than I was the film.
Well, no, I
But
fell asleep the first time I watched it, and then I had to watch it again.
no, I did.
He was falling
I was
asleep. I
thought,
had to poke him awake and be like, hello, there's a film on.
yeah, Which is really annoying because I'm saying I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I have been
I mean,
ever since
to
the first
me,
one.
this was. I mean, I don't know what sort of money they made from it in the way of merchandising or anything else, or just the money from the revenue for making it. But this was just one huge cash in, and nothing else. There was no need for it
It's no,
apart from that.
it's
Even more of a
blatantly the
cash in
fact
than
that
the Ewok movie.
They honestly, what they could have done instead of doing this, they could have had all like the characters appearing, but done more of an animated show with Chewbacca going back to his family, taking out all the weird jokes. They could have
Yeah.
just condensed it down to a little show with like maybe like Mark Hamill hosted it or something. They could have done so much more
The
with
other
like having to extend it out for 2 hours.
The other problem I had was when they first go to the trading post and Art Carney's there, and the guy is there from the Imperial. In my head, all I could see was Spaceballs.
yeah,
It's just
Yeah.
I've got so much of a problem with that helmet. It's the fact that I do. That's all I can
it just
see is
looks like the
Spaceballs with that
guy out of
helmet.
Spaceballs. It's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
and
tremendous.
to be honest, and I would say as much as I love the fact that parody film is amazing, that is 1,000 times better than this. And it's annoying because I'm saying I'm a big Star Wars fan, and it's just saying I've never felt so wound up by a film
I just
or by
honestly,
anything I watched.
I thought this was overlong. It was boring, and it was just rubbish.
Yeah,
It's just that, like you said, they were jumping on the trend because Star Wars was such a different thing for that time.
Yeah.
They were just jumping on it to make the money and have,
Well,
oh, look, Mark Hamill's in it.
I
Let's
was
get the money from it.
I was quite surprised uh what's her name? Carrie Fisher had such a good voice.
yeah.
Oh, she had an amazing voice. That woman was a goddess. She was like
Never heard her
amazing.
sing before, so I was quite surprised by that.
What I think was the funniest bit out of this so far, and I actually thought fit better, the depiction of Harrison Ford as obviously Han Solo in the cartoon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That was probably the best bit of that.
yeah, they were all so weird. The cartoons were very weird.
It's just
The other thing you noticed about I noticed about the thing though is the fact that they named Peter Mayhew and Anthony Daniels, who were both you couldn't recognise them because they were in their costumes. They didn't name the guy who played R2D2.
was it Ronnie? No, not Ronnie
I
Barker.
can't
That's
remember
a
his
different
name
person.
now.
Yeah, I know
They,
what you're talking.
they didn't name him at all, and you kind of go, "Oh, was he out of favour?"
yeah.
That
Oh,
time,
Kenny Barker.
Kenny Barker, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just the thing is he's on there like on the cast list, but he's not actually on the thing as like he's there.
No, he's not
And it's
named.
just
Yeah.
but then again at that point not many people knew that he was in the suit.
And then I mean, they do give some reference back. They kind of show some clips back to other people and all this kind of thing. And
I
as
just
you say, when the cast list goes up at the end, there is reference to people like Dave Prowse and people like that. But you know,
yeah, I agree with both of you guys. This is blatantly just them jumping on the bandwagon for the fact that it was money. And
yeah,
it's come out in when this first aired was a year after the first film come out. And I don't even think it was a full year after it come out. So
Yeah.
it's blatantly them just trying to keep the revenue going in and coming in for it. I think
yeah, absolutely.
it's a
Well,
shame.
there you go. Well, we've watched it now. We can put that down as
An
something we've done.
experience.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our horror film. Our horror film is the 1974 original version of Black Christmas.
Yeah.
The director of this is Bob Clark, who did some TV and short stuff in the 1980s. He made Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things in 1972 and Death Dream in 1974. The writer is Roy Moore. He wrote a film called The Last Chase in 1981. Now, interestingly, I thought this is that Black Christmas has been remade twice, once
Yes.
in 2006 and once in 2019. And both times, all they did was they adapted his original screenplay.
Yeah.
So effectively, he was the writer for all three versions of the same film.
Yeah.
Now, the cast, this is Olivia Hussey. Did some TV and shorts in the 90s and the 2020s. she was in loads and loads and loads of films, but not very many of them that were horror or sci-fi. We got The Cat and the Canary in 1978, Virus: The End in 1980, Turkey Shoot in 1982, Distortions 1988, Ice Cream Man 1995, The Gardener 1998, and Headspace in 2005. Then we have, I can never work out how to pronounce this, Kia Duella. I think it's Duella.
Yeah.
Or Dula. I don't know. It is some TV shorts, TVs and short stuff in the 70s, 80s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. He was the guy who played the main astronaut in 2001. He was the one who played Dave.
Yep.
What are you doing, Dave? Anyway, he just did The Haunting of Julia in 1977, Brainwaves 1982, 2010, 1984, Alien Hunter 2003, Space Station 76 in 2014, and Fahrenheit 451 in 2018. And we have Margot Kidder, who was overacting for the world. I think she was going for the world championship. TV and short stuff in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. She was in The Reincarnation of Peter Proud in 1975, Superman 1978, The Amityville Horror in 1979, Superman 2 in 1980, Superman 3 in 1983, Superman 4 in 1987, The Clown at Midnight in 1998, Death Foretold in 2004, and Halloween 2 in 2009. But interestingly, she was also in the TV series of Smallville.
Yeah.
Which was
Oh, wow.
a weird thing. Then we have John Saxon. Now, I'm not going to go through John.
I was saying, you didn't go through his list
We've
again.
already done this about 3 times. Anybody who wants to hear John Saxon's full filmography thing, listen to episode 41 when we did Battle Beyond the Stars, because I did it on there.
Yeah.
The other thing I found interesting with this is that the voice on the phone was actually done by a mix of people. There was like 3 different people doing the voice on the phone. And one of them was an actor called Nick Mancuso, who went on to do quite a lot of other stuff. But it was just quite an interesting fact. There were other people in this. Most of them only have big parts as far as it went in the whole thing. So, you know, I've definitely gone any further than that. If you want to check out who else is in it and what else they did, have a look on the IMDb website. That's all I ever do. The synopsis for this says, during their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger. That's there you go. I was quite fascinated by this film because I've never seen this film before, to be honest. And I was quite fascinated by it. The first thing that struck me was there's almost no music throughout the entire film.
Yeah,
And it's really
that's
strange.
very weird.
Especially for that sort of time, 70s and 80s, you normally got quite a bit of music and background music and stuff. Yeah. And there's almost none. And that's really kind of weird, and it works quite well. It's a bit slow. The pace of the film is a bit slow. As I say, Margot Kidder, I think, was overacting incredibly.
Yeah,
I mean, she was really going over the top for her role. I've got to say, I quite liked this film.
I'm in agreement, actually.
Yeah, but as it did get to the point near the end, if they became sort of sitting there, and every time I moved, she went, "I'm going to punch you in a minute because you're making me jump."
Well, no, it wasn't like, it's not scary. Like, obviously, coming from the resident non-horror person on the podcast, it's not scary. It's just, it is very slow. I agree with that. You kind of, at times, you're like, anything going to happen? Yeah. But it's more, I think, realizing there's no music. So you're drawn in. Yeah. You're listening for like every little sound, the house creaking, the phone going. You're hearing everything. Yeah. And it's not scary as in like horror, like sort of jump scares. It's more, I would say, psychological again. because you're so drawn in and you're waiting just for a little movement in the corner, because in the background you can see shadows going, you can see him creeping through the house.
Yeah.
But
there were bits as well that you were expecting to things to come at, and
yeah, one scene where the older lady is in the toilet and she's moving the mirrors. I was
Yeah.
expecting like her to move it and he'd be there. But
And
that's like where I think where you start watching more modern horrors, you're always expecting things.
yeah,
But
yeah.
this
That's what I was
one,
going to
it's
say. It's
yeah,
because we've watched so many more modern films. There were bits in it when I expected there to be jump
Yeah.
scares or whatever. There weren't, because of the fact they didn't really do them like that
Yeah.
then.
this is the things I've watched. I went to the cinemas to see it and watched the 2006 version of this, and I'm not going to go into detail about how much my friends at the time chickened out and walked out the cinema, but it's easy to tell the fact that it is just the same screenplay. They adapted bits,
Mm.
but it's very easy to tell the fact that they modernized it. Basically,
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I watched it the fact that it is exactly the same house they use every single time.
Oh, all right.
It's exactly the same sorority house that they use in every single film.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Which, yeah,
But I
I
haven't
did.
seen. It's one of these films where I've heard of it, and I
Yeah,
know it's been remade a few times, but I've never actually seen any of them. So
I've got to admit, I did make myself feel a lot older because I'm like, yeah, it's the 2019 one I've seen. I'm sure it is. And then it's only when I see the actual poster, I'm like, no, I see that a long time ago. So I'm pretty sure I wasn't that young when that old when I saw it. I was like, no, okay, I was. But yeah, it's. I agree with you. It's a very good film. It's a lot more atmospheric than it is scary. I think it's
yeah,
a lot. It draws you in a lot, and you're expecting things, and then certain little bits when it happens, you sort of it freaks you out a bit.
I mean,
And
without giving away, we're trying to do spoilers. Although if you haven't seen this by now, then whatever. But I've seen a few different films with the same basic idea as this, but I think this must have been one of the first films with the idea of the fact that the calls were coming from where
yeah,
they were.
yeah,
just the one thing I did like about this is every single remake, and you think you then see it also with more modern films when they're doing tracing calls. It's nice to see. I know this is going to sound really, really sort of like I'm trying to big up the whole technology is amazing, and I'm not. But the fact that how far we've come along with stuff like that, because of the fact that they based it off of what was available at the time,
Yeah,
to sit there and say that they had to keep this person on the line for like 5, 6 minutes just to be able to trace out where it's from,
yeah.
and sort of quite a few calls. Where nowadays it's look, we need you on the phone for at least a minute,
Oh, I
and
will.
it's a bit quicker to sort of do. But admittedly, it's not always better. But
I will
it's also
say,
one of the things that Amy did watch, and she sat there and agreed with me that we need to make this film where people in a horror film have seen horror films,
yeah,
because I agree with Amy and I agree with other people that I've seen reviews on this. Why is she being chased? She go into the basement,
yeah.
like,
I don't know. It's what you do, isn't
but
it?
yeah, and it's just I don't know. It's just I liked it a lot actually. It's it's easy to tell with the remakes as well the fact that a lot more things were acceptable as time went on.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, obviously, I know that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, a lot of stuff was laxed anyway because there wasn't a lot of like the rules and regs about what actors can and can't do and say
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that. But now it's a lot more acceptable for the violence and
yeah,
certain things, and it's very easy to tell watching the fact that I was saying I've seen like the next one on, which is really when you think about it, it's sort of it's a big gap difference in it, but it's not that long ago when you think about how far we've come along in things and the acceptance of the killings in the remake compared to
yeah.
what was actually shown in this one. Because
What
again, the fact that you can tell, that stuff's going on, but you don't actually see the murders.
what I thought was interesting about this is having spent a lot of time recently, as you have pointed out to me on numerous occasions, having spent a lot of time recently watching 1980s films, watching something from the like early to mid 70s was actually how much better this film was
Mm.
as a film.
Yeah,
It, it works so much better as a film.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, you do have a few bits of overacting. You've got the pace is a bit slow in places. I did get completely and utterly fed up with the copper who was a complete moron who
Yeah.
kept getting everything wrong.
Yeah.
And the other copper in the office who, for some reason, just kept laughing at everything.
Yeah.
Oh, the bit that I found funny actually was the fact that at some points when the camera was on him, a noise of laughter was happening, but he wasn't actually laughing.
Yeah.
It's what I liked about this is the fact it's a mid-70s film
Yeah,
where there's basically 90% of the cast are female,
Yep.
and there's no skin on show.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I
Like
agree.
for a lot of like we said, for a lot of 70s and 80s films, it was put in almost because of the fact that it could be,
Yeah, it was
and
kind of like,
it wasn't needed in this and wasn't put in. And I think that goes to say a lot for what this film was starting to achieve. The sort of the
and
fact
they
that
were. I mean, they
it
were trying
wasn't
to
just
sell.
there for the sake of it.
They were trying to sell all these films to sort of young teenage boys,
Yeah,
weren't they? So that was what they did.
but
But yeah, no,
this I think,
I really like. I probably quite like this. As I say, it was a bit slow in places, a
Yeah.
little bit dated in others, but it was quite an enjoyable film to watch.
I will say as well the fact that we've said about the fact that the other two remakes are basically just carbon copies of it, but they're not as well.
All
Like
right,
I know from the 2006 one that I've watched, it explains a lot more about the killer.
right,
Goes more into sort of his backstory and why he went to that house, and why he was targeting the people, and why the things were being said on the phone, and it
right.
explains a bit more about it. It's still the same story, but
I
it
don't.
explains a bit
I
more
don't.
as the story's going on.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I can see that make the story different, but I'm not sure it would make it better for me.
It does and it
Yeah.
doesn't because of the fact it explains a bit more why.
Yeah,
More basically explains more the reason why the phone calls are said and what he says on the phone and the 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 reasoning behind
yeah.
it.
I understand.
Not that that justifies it at all. Like we said before, almost the whole backstory bit sort of humanizes it, and it doesn't
Yeah.
with this. And
Yeah,
it does sort of with the other film. It humanizes it, and it's not just oh my god, he's doing it for the sake of doing it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
there is a reason behind it, and you're like, well, hang on, if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have happened. But it's still the fact that he explains a little bit about it, and it's almost a just not a justification. I'm not saying it, it's sort of a bit more of a spin on it to sort of understand why it was going on, and it's
yeah.
not just pure shock that this guy's there and he's killing them.
I
Yeah.
might have to see about watching the other two just to get an idea of.
I
Yeah.
would say I haven't watched the 2019. I've seen bits of it, but not all the way through. I'd definitely say the 2006 one is worth a watch,
Okay.
just purely just to see the slight differences in the two films.
Well, maybe something we can look at next year.
Yeah.
Because also next year I want to do some few things of that nature. Because we watched one of the films we watched this year was the Puppet Masters, which was a remake
Yes,
of a 1954 film called The Brain Eaters, which I wanted to
yeah,
watch the original one and see what the
yeah.
differences were.
See, this is one I will say though. It's one of the few films where I can genuinely say that where people go, oh, they remastered it and it's so much better. And I don't think actually that the remastered is better. Like
Okay.
the copy, I think actually that this one because it goes into a lot more about the way people treat. Even though the fact is from the 70s, the way people were treated back then, obviously that they were still kids, they were
Yeah.
female, they were seen as weak, and this is what you've got to do because we've said it. And there's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
people out there today that still say that, still go, "You're female, you need to do this. Shut up and do as you're told."
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it touches on a lot, like coming from obviously a female's point of view for watching it. It's nice that not all the girls are running around half naked because it's really off-putting when you're wanting to watch a good film and it's all like the same sort of thing, half naked women everywhere. But
yeah.
it touches on a lot of subjects that a lot of women are going through and have
Oh
been
yeah,
through that not a lot of films do because
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
very, very, very like tiny line of whether you should mention certain
Yeah,
things.
it's a
But
very controversial subject.
this film does it not in a way where it's wrong. They bring it up just enough, like certain subjects, that you're
yeah,
like, oh, okay, and like seeing how the man's reaction is to it, and you're seeing it from a different point of view. But
Yeah.
this is one I would watch again. I really,
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. Like
I
it was.
enjoyed it. It's very, as we said, it's more atmospheric than scare, and it's more
Yeah.
about the individual personalities and that sort of thing, which is really interesting to watch.
I would definitely say it's frustrating in places because you're shouting at the characters. I understand why people who watch horror from like a certain genre shout at the TV. Like, why are you going out there? Why? I can finally say I understand it
Yeah,
because
it's,
getting to the end of this film, I was shouting at the TV like,
Yeah.
just go.
yeah,
I finally understand.
yeah, it's the part where he goes, get out of the house, and she didn't. And at one point, I just there's Amy sitting there going, you do as you're told. And I'm like, pretty
I
sure,
understand now.
pretty sure. I was like, would you not do the same situation if you were in a friendship? No, well, so be your friend then. But
Yeah. No, it's cool. Well, it's cool. Yeah, as I say, so I think we would definitely recommend
Yes.
Black Christmas as a good film to have a watch of. Not necessarily so the Star Wars the holiday special, but hey, if you want to be a Star Wars completist and you want to watch everything, feel free.
don't honestly, it will upset you.
I can honestly say that if I never saw this again, I wouldn't be overly upset. The only thing I take solace in is that it's not Starship Invasions.
Thank God for that. Oh, can you imagine a TV special for all to do with Starship Invasions?
No. No. Okay, so there we are. This is our last proper review show of the year.
Yeah.
We have a show where we're going to round up our thoughts for the things for the year and all that kind of thing, which we'll do. But this is our last actual review. It's good.
I would definitely say Black Christmas has got Amy's stamp of horror approval. If
We'll
you're
have to-
a wuss like me, I'll put my stamp on it.
We'll have to.
If you're a wolf
That
like
is a
Amy,
thumbs up.
yeah, if you're a wolf like Amy, this horror film is fine.
Yes.
We'll have to see if we can work out a logo to put on the things, so it's got sort of like gets Amy's stamp of approval.
It's going to
What we
be
need
my
to
new
do- what we
segment.
need to
I'm going to
do-
bring it in every time I
We
join,
need
like
to talk to one of
Amy's
the,
stamp of
we need to talk to
approval.
one of the guys we know that does the little picture stickers that you can link to things and just put that. So next time anyone's looking out for the symbol, they just need to see Amy's picture like that.
Yeah. It's
Thumbs up.
my new segment for your next year of podcasting. I'm going to bring my segment in.
So we're going to do it. Just next year, if there is any ones, we might just put like a massive star across the thing. Amy approved.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean we're gonna try and change things up a bit next year, but we will talk more about that in the next show.
Yes.
But expect more of the same, and it's been wonderful this year to do these things.
Yeah, it's been a bit all over the place with timing, but that's because of things going on and
illnesses of ours, illnesses within the family, things going on within people have lives, including us at some point.
Yes, people keep telling me I need to get one, so I don't know why.
I would like to thank you, Amy, for joining us today, and for any other time you've joined throughout the year.
Thank you for having me again. I've done 2 horror movies in 1 week.
It's been
I'm
really
quite
good.
proud.
I love the way you looked at me like you were going to get some sort of, well done, babe.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy doing this. It's fun.
I enjoy you being here doing it. It's good to have an occasional sane voice.
Yeah. The voice of someone that actually knows a little bit what's coming out of their mouth before it actually
There you
goes.
go. See, you can put that on your CV. The voice of sanity in a mad world.
I never thought I'd be able to say that ever. And I'm the one that can actually talk. Normally I can't.
Yeah, if this was face to face, you'd be sitting there curled up in a ball. But
and thank you, Scott, for being part of the show as always.
I'm glad I have some uses, I suppose.
I've always said I don't care what anybody else says. I disagree with them completely. You are useful. I
love the way that Dad gave me a roundabout compliment and you tapped me like a seal of approval. Yeah, that's what I'm going to get you. That's going to be your next birthday present. Now it's just going to be a stamp that says Amy approves. And I'm going to probably come onto the next podcast with one on my head.
With a thumb like that.
Yep.
Letter A on the hand. Well, thank you both for being on the show, and thanks for
Fair.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody and anybody out there listening and tuning in and watching and whatever. We will be back. As I say, next week we have a kind of end of year roundup, and then after that, we expect to be back around the beginning of February, I think.
Yes.
Give us a chance
We're planning
to
on
sort things out and plan things and stuff.
run up a list of what we're going to do and possibly try and stick to it this year.
Yeah. I tried that this year. I tried writing a list out of all the films I wanted to do. I rewrote the list about 8 times.
And not all of it was because films weren't available anymore. It's because he realised that he had actually put one of them. He realised he put a film in twice.
And then I scrapped it completely towards the end.
Yeah.
But this year we'll try and find films that aren't going to suddenly disappear on us or be absolutely rubbish versions.
Or from the 80s.
I'm not going to guarantee that there will be.
All right.
No,
not so many from the 80s.
I'm not going to guarantee that there will be absolutely no 1980s films.
There's not so many because it felt like every week we done one.
I know. The thing about it is that the 1980s was a very big year for horror and science fiction films.
Yes, but none of them were good.
No, well, no, I think there were a few of them that weren't bad.
That's going to be your review for this year, is it?
Yeah.
Out of all the films we've done throughout the year, and that's 1 a week, or no, 3 a week in some cases. Some weren't bad.
Yeah. My review of the 1980s horror and science fiction output of the Western world is some of them weren't bad.
Yep.
Give you a Yorkshire approval. Yeah, they're all right.
All right.
There we go. Okay. So thank you to everybody for tuning in and everything, and we will be back next week with a final roundup and like that. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. The Sci-Fi Film Podcast.